Thank you, Reverend Rada. Sitting on a gold mine, yes. We all have that gold. We're not even sitting on it. It's in us. We are filled with the gold of so many gifts that we're not even aware of. Yes, all right. So in our action-oriented culture, we can often move into the doing that before we anchor ourselves in the source and in the divine wisdom, freedom, love, joy, peace, infinite possibilities, pure abundance that lie within us. That's the true source of our lives. That's the gold mine. The gold mine is within. Yes. Yeah. We can become so outer-driven that we forget to be inner, upward driven. And that's where the power truly lies, when we come from within ourselves and take that action. Not just from the circumstances. I know that we do this because we've been trained in our culture to react to the outside circumstances and move from there to our actions. Well, this morning I'm inviting us to first tap in to our inner gold mine, loving that, because that's where we're going to get the absolute most fantastic results from. Charles Fillmore, with his wife Myrtle, founders of Unity, wrote this in Talks on Truth, their big book, Unity's big book. The image and likeness of our spiritual body is as thoroughly defined in us as it is the tree in the acorn. Does the acorn consult anything outside itself as to how it should bring forth the tree? Certainly not. It simply rests in spirit and unfolds from moment to moment as moved by the impulse within. And I continue. Exactly the same law is operating in bringing forth the God-man. The external striving, wandering, must stop its restless seeking without and repose at the center. It must be obedient to the center and learn the language of spirit. So this whole month, we are going to do some careful training of the idea of going up. We're going to go up into source. In, but up. And this source is when it's always present fully and absolutely in and through, and as a source is the divine, it's God, it's love intelligence, it's the great I am. And this source is forever pouring itself within us. It's the inner voice of truth. It's the inner voice of truth. And this is what we do. We tap into that. Today it's all about up. So we tap up to that before we move before we move into action. So today and next Sunday, our theme is going to be called 7-Up. And that's not the soft drink, but it's 7 ideas. So today we're going to get into 3.5 of those ideas. And next week we'll do the other 3.5, okay? And these will support our outer actions by moving into a place where we tap into God's freedom, love, joy, peace, abundance in our lives. These qualities are inner-driven, and when we learn how to really tap into them and express them, our whole lives change. They change. So today's qualities are look up, lift up, lighten up, and make it up. So next week, very briefly, but that's what we're going to do half of the make it up. We'll do make it up part 2. Kick it up, which is like, I love that. So I like to kick it up. Give it up. Start it up. And look up. So today, well, today's look up. The first of our 7-Ups today, then, is the idea of looking up. Now, looking up, we're looking up to the divine source of all that is, was, and ever will be. And we are told in scriptures, in the Psalms, chapter 121, verse 1, I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. That is actually a beautiful affirmation, so I'm going to have you repeat it after me. All right? I will lift up mine eyes.
I will lift up mine eyes
Unto the hill.
unto the hills.
From whence cometh my help.
From whence cometh my help?
Yeah. Good thing I don't live in those days. I have enough trouble with the language in these days, so. I want to be clear about something, though. The looking up part. I know that we don't look up, but for today and for always, and I use this, we're going to use it as a symbolic gesture, because I know that when something great happens in my life, I say, thank you, God, and my eyes go up. So it's a symbolic action. We know that the divine is within us, but it's also everywhere. There is no place. It's omnipresent. There's no place that God is not, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Holmes, in Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, wrote in his book, Science of Mind, one alone in consciousness with the infinite constitutes a complete majority. Knowing this, in your thought, work in perfect peace and calm. I love that. Isn't that powerful? I love that. Just think about it for a moment in a personal sense. Just you, all by your little old self. When you consciously look up, another way of aligning with the divine, you become a complete majority in your own life. Who else is there that you have responsibility for? Can I be responsible for another human being? I think not. Try it. See how it works. Let me know next week. Let me know how that works. I'll tell my son how to raise his kids. We'll see how that works. I don't think they should be eating that food because it's me and God. It's not about my, directing someone else, because everyone, when they consciously become aware, can align with the same truth. It's been here forever. It's not like something that was made up. Ernest Holmes will tell you this. He studied every religion. And every religion has as its foundation these truths. They do not change. God is love. God is law. God is beauty. God is good. It's the same in every religion. And so I have also a powerful statement from a sacred text of the Sikh religion, and it goes like this. Should anyone be victim of great anxiety, his body racked with maladies, beset with problems, or of home and family, with pleasure and pain alternating, wandering in all four directions, without peace or rest, should he then contemplate the Supreme Being, peaceful shall his mind and body become. When we align with the infinite, when we develop first, before we can even align with it, we have to know what it is. So how do we find out what it is? How do we find out what it is? What's one way?
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Yes.
Meditation.
Meditation, which is asking, yeah. Meditation, going within. Establishing a relationship with this indwelling eternal presence. It's our soul. It's our absolute truth. And most people have not developed a real relationship with it. Not with that indwelling gold that's within all of us, those jewels that are the truth of who we are. Jesus told us, as one of our master way showers, told us that we must become as children to enter the kingdom of heaven. Meaning, we must have that innocence, that purity of thought, in order to achieve peace, joy, all of those qualities, because we know that heaven and hell exist within us. Our teachings tell us it's not a place out here or up there, heaven, hell. That's not what our teachings, which I find extremely comforting. Our teachings will tell us that the heaven and hell that we speak of lie within us, how we respond to circumstances in our lives. And we'll get into that in the half part. That's the making up. We'll do part of that today and part of it next week. We make it up. A Sunday school teacher asked her group of children if anyone could quote the entire 23rd Psalm. And a golden-haired 4.5-year-old little girl stood up. She raised her hand and said, "I can do it. I can do it." And the teacher was a little skeptical, but the little girl came up and took her bow, and she's going to recite the entire 23rd Psalm. She made her bow, and she said very proudly, "The Lord is my shepherd. That's all I want." And she bowed, went back, sat down again. I think that is one of the best interpretations of the 23rd Psalm. What else do you need? God is all there is. The divine energy is all that is. And I am part of that energy. Yes, yes. So the second of our 7-ups is to lift up. And you may wonder how it's different from looking up, but it is quite different. Because lift up means to raise our vibration up. So you are in alignment with source energy. And it is given Esther and Jerry Hicks. It's on his journey. They wrote about our emotional guidance system, and most of us, if you've been in any of my classes, I've handed that out, is moving up the emotional guidance scale to be where we want to be. They suggest that our emotions are indicators of our vibrational frequency. And our vibrational frequency is an indicator to our degree of alignment with source energy, with the divine. And other emotions we are having at any given moment can clue us. They can always clue us to if we are in alignment or if we are out of alignment. And Hicks put our emotions on a continuum, just as Hawkins did. From lowest, most out of alignment, to the highest, most in alignment. I'm going to go over them very briefly. The most out of alignment emotions are, so see where you fit in this and how you can raise your, because you can choose. You can choose. Fear, depression, despair being the lowest. You can move up to anger, discouragement, and blame. It's higher. Going up again, disappointment, frustration, pessimism. It's better than despair and fear. Moving up to boredom, contentment, hopefulness. It's better to be hopeful than depressed and in a state of anxiety. Moving up to optimism, enthusiasm, and happiness. And moving up to passion, joy, enthusiasm. And finally, moving up to empowerment and love. It's divine love we speak of. As I said, these align beautifully with David Hawkins' vibrational scale, which goes from shame and guilt to, at the very bottom, to joy and enlightenment at the very top. So we are energy beings. Yes, we know this. Yes, right?
Yes.
We are energy beings. I mean, it's scientifically proven now. We are not mass that we think that we're just like stagnant. We are everything. Every cell in our body is moving with its own pure intelligence. It's pure vibration because we are energy. We are energy. That's what we are. We're part of the divine energy that created all that is. So an idea behind Lift Up is first to pay attention to where you currently are, to tune in to how you are feeling. And that gives you an idea of how in alignment or out of alignment, because we want to be in alignment, it feels better. Isn't the whole purpose to live a joyful, happy life as best we can, even with all the circumstances that come up in our lives? Yes.
Absolutely.
That's where we have that conscious choice. That's why it's paramount to develop a deep relationship with that indwelling presence within you. And in elevating or lifting up, you create a vibration more aligned with the source of all good, and the outcome, your experience will be much different. I've noticed it. If we're operating from a place of anxiety when we make a decision, guess what's going to happen in our experiences? They're going to be filled with anxiety and fear. But if we take a breath and go inward and align with the peace of the divine, that's the truth of who we are, and then take that step and make that action, the outcome will be so much more in your favor of happiness, of joy, of contentment. So how do we lift up our emotions? By the thoughts we choose to think. Remember Ernest Holmes? Change your thinking, change your life. It's true. Hello? It's true. Sometimes I have to say it to me. It's true. Listen to what you say. Listen to what you are telling people. It's true. So choose a better thought. We can choose to think a different thought. We can. You know that we can do that. We can choose a thought at every situation. We're not victim to old beat. We can get to a new one. We may not be able to jump directly from anxiety and fear into joy and enthusiasm, but we climb up that emotional scale. We get to hope. We get to a place where there's hope. Well, maybe I can see this a little differently. Just a little difference in what we choose to think changes everything. It changes our lives. It changes our story. And it's so much better than the just being a victim too. This is empowering. Religious science, science of mind, is a new thought, is empowering. It empowers us to take control over our lives instead of our lives taking control over us over and over again. So we can now be empowered with these truths when we use them. That's why it's practical. And so lighten up, which pretty much sounds like it says, lighten up. Henry Ward Beecher once said, a person without a sense of humor is like a wagon without springs, jolted by every pebble on the road. Bumpy ride. I don't mind the bumps, it's those roller coasters. I'm not a big fan of roller coasters. No, I don't like the physical roller coaster, and I don't like the emotional roller coaster, but sometimes, you know, we find ourselves like up there, and it looks like we're going to take a big plunge. But that's where we just take that breath. Right before that car drops. I've only been on a roller coaster once in my life. That was enough. But the emotional ones feel the same way. We can make a choice of how light we're going to take the moments. We don't have to wait for humor or for the lightness or for joy to come to us. We can create it. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah! We can create our own joy.
Hell yeah.
Joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. Joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. Yeah, you want to say it? Yeah. Go ahead, let's say it. Joy is the infallible presence of God. What's the sign of God? Yeah. So, the unmistakable evidence of God's presence then is joy, which means it's a joy that isn't dependent on or contained in the experiences of our lives. So as we go through the experience of life, there are wonderful opportunities to take it all lightly, to make light of it. You ever do that? Like sometimes I'll be laying in bed and think about like the day, which I thought was like a big deal thing that took place, and I start laughing because I can't believe how ridiculous some of my thoughts are. It's like, really? Really, we could be our own stand-up comic as we lay in bed and think about the insanity of how we react, not respond, but react to the things that take place in life and the things we say. Did I really say that? I mean, and then you laugh. That's the humor. And we lighten up when we laugh. And that does not mean that things are not important. It just means that whatever we're going through, whatever it is, and some of us are going through some really heavy stuff. I'm sure with this amount of people in the room that there are some heavy things that are taking place in people's lives, challenges. And you don't get a group of people this big without a few of us having some challenges in life. But whatever we're going through, and this is the important thing to remember, whatever we are going through, we can hold it lightly. We can hold it lightly and find some humor in it. We can do this because there is plenty of joy available regardless of what we are going through, because there's plenty of God available. If there's plenty of God available all the time, this omnipresent power, then it is filled with joy, and that is our truth. And finally, this is the half part, we make it up, which means we give our life meaning. We get to say what it is, what something means. We can even rewrite our story. We could rewrite our own story. And I'm sure that many of you have heard of prosperity guru Edwene Gaines. She's really a trip. You talk about humor. Have you ever seen her? Oh, my goodness, isn't she just so funny? She's hysterical, but she is a manifester. Wow. Anyway, she tells the story of a friend who put MSU after her name on a business card. And Ed Weens was very impressed with this string of letters. Like many of us see these letters after people's names. And then she admitted to her friend that she had no idea what it really meant. And her friend said, make stuff up. Do that. Well, we're going to talk about that more next week. MSU, put anything on a business card. No one's going to know. And they ask you, tell them something really cool. Just tell them something really cool. It'll make you laugh and it'll make them laugh. It's a good thing. So before we move into this world of action, which we are in, we look up to God, the source of all good. We lift up our vibration by choosing thoughts that will take us up one rung of that emotional scale ladder. Lighten up, where we realize that we don't have to hold on so tightly, and find joy in everything because God is in everything. And finally, we can make it up, which means we get to decide. We get to decide, am I tired of being a victim? Do I want to move into a more empowered life? We make that up. Life happens. How we react, respond to it is our choice. So this week, let's remember, as we leave, let's use these principles in our lives. Remember to keep it simple by truly believing that God is our only source of all good. Then lift up our vibration high by choosing that happy thought, a better thought, one that will serve you. And then we can lighten up so that we can feel joy in our lives. And finally, make up a good story. Make up a good story. Live a life. Live the happy dream, and Course in Miracles says. Live the happy dream. You're going to have the dream anyway, right? We say we're living in this insane asylum called humanity. Yeah, really. And I can't say it enough because it makes me laugh. Because we all make up these stories. And then we think they're true. And then we try to have a conversation with someone else who just made up a story that they think is true, that has nothing to do with your reality, and then we try to have a conversation. And then someone says, well, you didn't tell me that clearly. Don Miguel Ruiz really talks about that in Voice of Knowledge. How can we even, there's like 10 people in the room when there's only physically 2. There's me, there's my belief system, there's my ancestral beliefs, there's the race consciousness beliefs. All of that has influenced how I am communicating, and then I expect to understand what you're saying. Clearly, on the first take. Anyway, I did have a story, but I think it's too long, so we're not going to do that today, but...
Come on.
Really want it?
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Just wanted to go.
We're not
Not
here
a
for the
joke,
bagels.
Dan. Not a joke. So this is, let's end, this is a story. A young man was exploring a cave near his home. This ties in all the ups, okay? A young man was exploring a cave near his home when the beam from his flashlight ignited a faint sparkle on the ground. He walked over to that spot and picked up a fairly ordinary-looking rock. As he brushed it off and studied it more closely, he realized it was a raw diamond, probably about 5 or 6 carats, and was worth probably a handsome amount of money. He put it in his pocket and explored the floor looking for more of these rocks. And then when he left the cave, he reached into his pocket to find it was empty. It was as if the diamond had burned right through the material of his coat. He immediately went back to the cave and retraced his steps, but to no avail. He went back the next day, and the next, and the next, and the next, and he continuously was going back looking for this precious, expensive diamond. And soon he lost his job as a carpenter, because he failed to show up for work. As a result of the searching for this diamond, he knew that it would land him a fortune. He eventually lost his home as he ran out of money to pay his rent. He set up a tent near the cave so he could search every day. He became a hermit, giving up all of his relationships, hobbies, to focus on his obsessive quest. Years passed by in a blink of an eye, and one day he realized that he was wasting his life searching for something that might not have been as valuable as he had imagined. He decided that he would spend one more day searching, and if he did not find the diamond, he would then give up and start his new life. Give up. So that next day, he searched and searched on his hands and knees and became a dirty, bloody mess looking for this diamond. And he worked for 18 hours, knowing this would be his last chance. Now he wanted to find the diamond as much to appease his guilt over wasting so much of his life as to enjoy the elusive fortune he had originally sought. Exhausted beyond measure, he fell onto his back in despair. It hit him how ridiculous he must have looked lying there on the floor, all messy and dirty and exhausted, completely without life. And he began to laugh, and his mind flooded with all the precious things he realized he missed. As he released his obsession for finding the diamond, he began to feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. He was hopeful about his future. He started to look forward to contributing to the world again through his craft, to the joy of relationships, and to the love of friends. In that moment, he realized he was so much more than what he had become, and that he could rewrite his life from this moment forward. He felt grateful for understanding and vowed to enjoy life each moment from that day forward. In that story, we have lift up, lighten up, and make it up. But where's the look up? So it comes as this P.S. As he was laying on his back, laughing, feeling hopeful, and realizing he can make up his new life, he shined his flashlight onto the ceiling of the cave, and for the first time he looked up. And in looking up, he saw the ceiling dripping with diamonds, raw diamonds. He sold the diamond mine, gave most of the money to charity, married, had a family, and went back to carpentry and lived a completely comfortable and simple life until he died. He occasionally taught seminars on how to appreciate the magic of every moment. So sometimes we forget the important things in life, what is truly important. And then just by letting go, letting God, relaxing into the energy of life itself, we can look up and find the diamonds we had been so desperately searching for, the jewels. They're already within us. So look up, but look within. There's your story.
There you go.